Most people think AI coding fails because the model isn't smart enough. But the real problem isn't the AI, it's how we communicate with it. You see, vibe coding is what happens when we give our AI assistants vague intentions instead of structured logic. It's when a prompt feels right, but the output collapses the moment real complexity hits. You're not like coding with precision, like you're coding on vibes. That's where MCP or modular cognitive programming comes in. It's a framework that forces clarity, separating intent, logic, and execution, so AI can actually reason instead of hallucinating. Think of it as turning scattered creative energy into a real workflow the AI can follow. So why should you care? Because every time your AI generated code half works and then silently breaks, it's not your fault. It's your structure's fault. MCP fixes that by teaching the AI how to think before it codes. It bridges the gap between this kind of works and this scales in production. Today, let's break down exactly why vibe coding keeps failing and how MCP can turn your assistant from a glorified autocomplete into a real coding partner. Have you ever started coding and thought, hey, I'll just vibe it and see what happens, only to end up with a mess that even you don't understand? Yeah, we've all been there. There's this thing in the coding world called vibe coding, and honestly, it sounds cool at first. Like, imagine just flowing with your code, improvising like a jazz musician, and trusting that somehow everything will work out. Sounds freeing, right? But the truth is, vibe coding is kind of like grabbing a chainsaw and saying, I've got this, without actually knowing how to handle it. Chainsaws are powerful, but if you don't respect the kickback, things get messy fast. An AI encoding, it's basically a chainsaw with a mind of its own. It's smart, but it can also throw you for a loop if you aren't paying attention. So, why exactly is vibe coding risky? Well, when you code on pure instinct or just follow the flow, you often miss the small but critical details. Variables get misnamed, functions don't interact as intended, and suddenly your elegant little script becomes a spaghetti nightmare. Now, imagine adding AI to the mix. You might think, cool, AI can do the heavy lifting for me, and that's true to some extent. AI can speed things up, suggest solutions, even refactor parts of your code. But here's the kicker. AI isn't perfect. It has these things called failure modes, which is just a fancy way of saying it can screw up in very weird ways. Sometimes it's like it's chasing its own tail, overcomplicating a simple function, or doing what I like to call random acts of stupidity. Yeah, AI will give you code that looks perfect on the surface, but does something completely ridiculous under the hood. Imagine you're building a small calculator app. You ask your AI assistant to handle addition, and instead, it gives you a 10-step solution involving unnecessary classes, obscure math tricks, and error handling you didn't even need. That's over engineering. And it happens because AI doesn't know when to stop. Humans, on the other hand, can decide, okay, a simple function is enough. That's why blindly trusting AI to code for you is like trusting that chainsaw not to kick back while you're holding it with one hand. You've got to be the one guiding it, reviewing every line, and sometimes even saying, nope, we don't need all that complexity. Now, don't get me wrong, AI assisted coding isn't a bad thing. In fact, if used right, it can boost your productivity by 3, even 5 times. The trick is to use it as a helper, not a replacement. Think of it as a co pilot rather than an autopilot. You're still in control, but AI can help with the repetitive stuff, suggest optimizations, and even point out potential bugs you might have overlooked. It's all about balance. You want that sweet spot where your human brain handles the strategy and logic, and AI handles the tedious lifting. Let's dive a little deeper into those AI failure patterns. One common scenario is what I like to call chasing its own tail. This is when AI gets stuck trying to fix a bug, but keeps generating variations of the same solution, none of which actually solve the problem. It's frustrating because it looks busy, but nothing meaningful is happening. Then there's the over-engineering trap, where a simple loop becomes a nested labyrinth of classes and functions. You ask for a hammer, and it brings a full toolbox, including things you didn't even know existed. That's why human oversight is non-negotiable. You need to constantly check, guide, and sometimes even push back against what AI suggests. And here's the thing about random stupidity in AI coding. It's not really being stupid. AI doesn't understand intent the way humans do. It predicts what it thinks is the most likely correct code based on patterns it's learned. Sometimes those patterns just don't fit your specific problem. So when AI writes a function that makes zero sense, it's not trolling you. It's just trying its best without really knowing your goal. This is why vibe coding plus AI is a dangerous combo. You're improvising with something that doesn't improvise like a human. But let's flip the script. Imagine using AI the right way. You start a project, maybe a game or a small web app. You write your core logic, plan your structure, then bring in AI to help generate boilerplate code, refactor messy functions, or suggest optimizations. So you review everything, adjust what's needed, and voila, you're coding faster without sacrificing quality. It's like having a teammate who's incredibly fast at tedious work but still listens to your instructions. You keep control, you avoid the random disasters, and you actually learn from what AI produces. So, should you throw out AI tools completely because vibe coding failed in the past? Absolutely not. That's just swinging the pendulum too far in the opposite direction. The key is perspective. Vibe coding teaches you what happens when you don't plan, and AI teaches you what happens when you don't review. Mix them smartly, and you get a system that's both fast and safe. Developers who understand this balance tend to produce cleaner code, lower technical debt, and fewer all-nighters debugging absurd issues. Looking forward, AI encoding is inevitable. We're moving from axes to chainsaws in terms of how we build software. And just like with any powerful tool, mastery comes from understanding its limits. There's a real art in combining human intuition with AI speed, like following best practices, like reviewing every line, making incremental changes, and guiding AI fixes isn't optional, it's essential. And don't let fear hold you back. Embracing AI responsibly can actually make you a better programmer, not replace you. So, in the end, vibe coding might feel fun, and AI coding might feel like magic, but neither works perfectly alone. The magic happens when you combine your brain with AI's capabilities, stay vigilant, and treat every line of code with intention. Remember, the chainsaw doesn't cut itself, but in the right hands, it can create incredible things. Take control, experiment safely, and keep coding smarter. You've got this.